WCSM's General Store is brought to you by Chad's Express Lube and Car Care, Christine Flynn, your local farmer's insurance agent, and Orion Saft, the AME Group, for all your technical needs. WCSM is recorded at 70X7 Studio. And now, the General Store crew.
Well, hello.
Hey.
Welcome to WCSM's General Store. So glad to have you with us here in the 70X7 studio. I'm still struggling with that.
You do it well.
I got to catch myself that I'm not saying 70
I forget,
times 7.
and when you say it, I remember. So very
70X7.
Yeah.
Don't forget to forgive those 70 times 7. That's what that means, and we love it. And so,
and it's right over my shoulder now, right?
It is.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I love that Mike's moved that. Speaking of Mike and Carter, our producers, thank you so much to them for all that they do. But most of all, thank you to you for joining us every week. And we couldn't do it without you and wouldn't want to. So, well, we're going to dig right in because we have got a very... we want to introduce you to this guy.
And then went back in. 19 for him. Here comes Riddell Jones. 3 seconds. 2 seconds. Riddell all the way outside to Watford. 3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Christian Watford with a 3! And the Hoosiers have knocked off the #1 ranked Kentucky Wildcats! Unbelievable!
Don Fischer is with us, and we're thrilled to have us. Don's like, where? Who? Can I meet him? So Don actually joined us for an episode of our radio show. Gosh, that's been 5-6 years ago, probably.
Oh, Sheila,
It's been a minute.
it's been. I think it was right after the first football bowl game. I think it was more in the 08, 9, 10 area.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's
really?
been a while. We've got a great picture of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So yeah, it's been a few years. So thank you, first of all, for taking time to do this. We know you're very busy. We're probably cutting into your golf time.
Well, that's the problem. It's really hurting today. But
our apologies, Don. We'll make this as quick as we can.
yeah.
Here's the thing. People think that you're the voice of the Hoosiers, but really you're just a really good golfer.
Well, I'm okay. No golfer thinks he's as good as what he wants to be.
Right.
That's the biggest problem with golf. But no, I love playing golf, and we will be doing a lot of it here that the season has come to a close. Yeah.
So that's what I was going to ask next. Are you headed out to some golf? Like, what's your favorite golf course? Like, if you could choose anywhere that you've played, where would you go?
I am not a golf snob.
Oh, so
I
you'll
will
just play
anywhere.
Yeah.
And I played a place called White Lick, which is in Hendricks County. I don't know if it's still open or not. I doubt that it is. It's probably a field right there putting corn in it now. Because there's no question. I played everywhere. My wife and I play a lot on Sundays.
So is Susie good? Did she play?
She's a decent player
Yeah.
for somebody who will never practice.
Yeah.
But she can hit the ball. She does not slow things down. That's the best thing about a wife who plays golf.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And if we're with another couple or something like that, we'll still ride together, that kind of thing. It's not like we try to make it coeducational, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we have a good time playing. But I play during the week 3 or 4 times. And
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
That's great.
Yep.
So who does, the inquiring minds want to know, especially me, who does drive the golf car?
Oh, I drive the golf cart.
Oh, you do?
Kidding me?
See, Perry lets me drive.
Well, if Susie wanted to drive, I guess I'd probably let her.
Mm-hmm.
But I think because I'm such a good driver on the golf
right.
course,
That's
Yes.
I'm really, really good at it.
Yeah. And we've talked about his driving.
We have.
Yeah.
In fact,
Yeah.
we just talked about his driving. Have you ever gotten a ticket on the golf course driving the golf cart?
No.
Okay. How about on the highway?
Take the fifth.
Yeah, I plead the fifth.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you gotta tell that the best part of that story that you shared with us, that we've all gotten tickets. You've all gotten you guys even have had tickets, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And you guys all know I have had the trifecta within 2 weeks of each other.
Setting a record.
Yeah, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Indiana.
The trifecta.
In 2 weeks.
Yeah, but within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But you said you got your lead foot from your grandmother and your mother, which I love that part of the story.
Well, my parents were divorced when I was 4, and I went to live with my grandmother and grandfather for 3 years. My brother and I'm a twin. My brother lives in Salt Lake City,
I think you
Utah.
told me that before. Yeah.
And he was a Lutheran pastor. He just retired about 5 years ago, but he still preaches like 20 Sundays a year, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, we shipped off to my grandparents for 3 years until my mom remarried. And my grandmother drove my grandfather all around every place. I mean, if it was in a car, my grandfather was in the passenger side, my grandmother was driving. And she had a very heavy foot.
So that's where you learned?
They were farmers. My grandmother, I mean, you go down a gravel road and you know how that you stir up the dirt.
Right. Sure.
You couldn't see. You could always see where my grandmother was at if she was coming down the gravel roads near the farm, because there's this huge plume of dust curling up behind the car.
There she goes.
Now, did your grandpa ever complain about her lead foot?
Nope.
No.
Not that I know of. I mean,
not while you were in.
Not while I was in the car with him. No, but she didn't slow down because we were in the car either, and there were no seatbelts in those days. I remember. Wow. I am old.
I don't believe it.
That's hysterical.
But she got she had the lead foot, and then she transferred that on to my mother. My mother had a lead foot, and now I've got a lead foot.
Wow.
So do you feel like you still have a lead foot?
Yes.
Yes.
But I try not to be as lead-footed as I used to be, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
But I'm a little more careful these days than I used to be, because I have to be, because I'm slower now than I ever have been.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking from a car perspective.
Right. It all happens to all of us.
But you know what I mean. I mean, you always slow down a little bit. But and I try not to go too much over the speed limit. But I found myself today, I was driving over from Edinburgh because I had an appointment over there before I came to Bloomington, and I was really going way too fast at some point. And of course I have a
Detector?
Radar detector.
radar detector.
Sure you do.
Yeah.
And it's not illegal in the state of Indiana.
No.
If it was illegal, I wouldn't have one.
Of course.
Sure.
Believe it. Wink,
Like
wink.
you wouldn't speed. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
But I
It's a safety device. That's all.
It is.
right.
It
And
totally
so
is.
It warns you if there's a police officer ahead.
I'm literally on 46, as you know, and that's
Oh, it's
not exactly.
horrible,
It's
too, yeah.
really slow.
Sure.
So I sped up a little bit and almost got nicked.
Oh, you did?
I didn't get nicked, but I almost got nicked. Thank goodness for the deal.
So it worked. Good to know.
It's helped me a lot. It was
Yeah,
good.
it's your best friend. You know what? I just found out. Sidebar to that. My youngest son is over in Cincinnati taking at flight school. He's getting his pilot's license, and so I've driven over there a few times, and I use Apple Maps.
Yeah.
You know. Apple Maps actually tells you that there's a police officer.
Waze
It's like
does that also.
Yeah, we use Waze,
Yeah.
WAZE, which I swear by. It's one of the best. Do you use that,
Yeah.
Bill?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great app, real time.
Yeah, yeah.
I never used. I didn't know
No.
Apple
And it will ask you when you go by, is the police officer still there?
still there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well-
no, that's like a crowdsourced kind of thing. Like people,
Yeah.
Yes.
where Apple
sharing.
themselves, I think, does theirs, but in Waze, it's people who are on the road,
sharing. People
drivers
report it.
sharing it, reporting it. Right, yeah.
Right.
But
Well-
good information.
Yeah, I mean, I want to know police officers in the area so I can
Right.
slow down and keep the police officer safe.
Right.
There you go.
That's all it's about. It's safety. It's all about
it's
safety.
all about safety. Absolutely.
What a good human being.
Right.
Thank you, Don. He gets me.
Yeah, right.
It's all about safety.
Absolutely.
So funny.
Absolutely.
So, Don, you just gave us a great segue. So really, I want to know, I think we all do. We all want to know who Don Fischer is from a standpoint of, like, where did you grow up? And tell us a little bit about your family. I had no idea you were a twin. And are there other siblings? So take it away.
Well, obviously, I grew up in Illinois, northern Illinois, about 100 miles west of Chicago. I was born in Mendota, which is on Route 51. It's no longer 51. It's now 39 and interstate. but it's in the northern part of the state. If you know where Rockford, Illinois is, it's about 20 miles south of Rockford. There's Rochelle, which that's really where I grew up after I left the farm with my grandparents. And we were in Rochelle from that point forward through graduation of high school. And once I graduated high school, I was not the best student. In fact, I was probably one of the least best students. I didn't like school very much. I studied just enough to get by. Made sure that I wasn't flunking out on anything. I did flunk a class, but had to take junior English over. But that was because I was skipping school too much.
That's something to do with
this. Is the Don Fischer we want to know.
Yeah. So and my wife, of course, now would tell everybody, don't ask him about his past, but because I was not a model human being at that time. But nevertheless, I graduated high school, didn't know what I wanted to do. And I've said this too. I've been written about several times and told people this, but I got out of high school, and really the only thing I liked was sports. I mean, I loved being a part of sports. I thought I was going to be a coach. But you have to go to college to be a coach, and I didn't want any more classes, I can tell you that. And they didn't want me either, trust me. So the point of being, I started getting jobs out of high school. Couldn't hold. I could hold a job, but I didn't like any of the jobs that I was doing. I was in factories. I was in a meat packing plant for a time.
Oh, wow.
I won't even tell you that story because it's gruesome. I can't even speak about it.
It's awful.
I can't even describe it. Yeah. At any rate, and I sold magazines door to door. Worked at an insurance company that folded in 3 months after I was there. So it kind of gives you an idea that I wasn't suited for a lot of different things. I finally got a job with the railroad in Mendota, Illinois, which is where I was born. And once I got that job, I started out. The guy said, we're going to hire a weekend guy here in a couple of weeks, but you're going to have to work 7 days for a couple of weeks here before, while we look for another guy for the weekends. Well, 7 months later, they found him.
Oh, wow.
I had 1 day off in 7 months.
Seriously.
Oh, my.
And I thought during that period of time, it was about 5 months in, this is not what I want to do with the rest of my life. So I'm sitting at the depot one night, and my shift was 9 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock in the morning. Which is even more unbearable because you had no social life whatsoever.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did have a bunch of friends that would come to the railroad depot and pick me up and take me out to Ziegler's restaurant. We would go out and eat at 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that. Right. We'd do that every weekend or something. But
sure.
At any rate, it was just a boring job. It wasn't a great job by any stretch of the imagination, but it paid probably $2.34, $2.35 an hour, which at that time for me was decent money.
Yeah.
So
and how old were you at this point?
Let's see. I was 19.
Okay.
So, actually, I was closing in on 20, but I was still 19 at that point. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting in the depot one night, and I have a sack lunch that I packed, and I'm sitting there reading a sport magazine. And on the back inside cover of this magazine was an ad that said, and it was full page. It said, "How would you like to be a sportscaster?" And I looked at this thing, and I'm sitting there going, "Man, I love sports. I think I might be able to do that."
Really?
So I applied to Career Academy in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was a home correspondence course.
Oh.
Home correspondence. What you did was you paid them $845. They sent you 20 record albums with your lessons on the record albums. They sent you a tape recorder that probably cost them $24. And it was 3 3/4 speed. Anybody that's been in our business for a long time, and you probably don't know this, but there's a recorder that actually records at 3 3/4 speed, which is really slow. At any rate, but that was the kind of recorder they sent you. And then you do your lessons. They had a workbook with it. Then you do your lessons in the workbook, and then you would also record the things that they were trying to get you to learn: how to inflect your voice, commercials, newscasts, those kinds of things, how to enunciate, verbiage, that kind of thing. Everything that they taught you was very basic, fundamental stuff that a lot of it you learned in high school, for heaven's sakes. But nevertheless, you were now responsible for putting it on tape and, doing it. So you'd send those tapes to Career Academy, and they would critique the tapes, and then they'd send them back to you with all their critique on the tape as well. So that's how I started out in this business. And at the same time that I started this Career Academy program, I went up to the local radio station. We had a small FM radio station in our town. And I walked in there and I said, I said, can I see the program director? And they said, sure. So a guy named Art Mann came out, introduced himself, and said, what can we do for you? And I said, well, I'm going to get into this radio business. I want to be a sportscaster. He says, well, a lot of people want to do that. He said, but you're going to have to do a lot of other things in small town radio if you want to be in this business. Mm-hmm. And so I said, well, what can I do here? Can I watch you guys? Can I sit in and see what you're doing, how you're doing it, that type of thing? And they said, sure. So I became their gopher. And I literally, clear this is old stuff now, Associated Press wires.
Yeah.
And at that time, I'm trying to remember what the name of it, United Press or International, UPS, wow. UPI, I mean.
Yeah. Wow.
So there were wires that came in and had newscasts on them and things like that, and you tore them up, handed them to the announcer, and he would read, he'd do his newscast based off those things. So at any rate, I'm watching these guys and learning from them, just how they did and how they ran about the radio station, how they did their work and that kind of thing. That's how I got started. And then about halfway through, and I'd made a friend right away, a guy named Chuck Kenworthy, who was the morning announcer there. And he said, I'm going to leave here. I want to get into TV. And he says, I want to leave here. But he says, I'm not going to stay in Mendota, Illinois, not find a job. I'm not going to find anything in TV in here. So he ends up going to a station in DeKalb, Illinois, where Northern Illinois University is. Yep. And he was there for about 3 months. And while I'm about halfway through this deal with the Career Academy. And I call him up one day, and he's not there. And I asked the secretary, I said, well, where's he at? And he said, well, he left the station. He's gone to Butte, Montana.
Oh.
I said, Butte, Montana? What's he going to do out there? He said, well, he wants to get into TV, and there's a radio station out there that's in cahoots with the television station, and he thinks that he can move from the radio to the TV, and that's how he's going to get a TV job. So he gave me his phone number, so I called him up, and I said, why Butte, Montana? He told me the same thing the secretary did. I want to get into TV. He says, incidentally, you might be interested in this. He says, they're looking for a nighttime DJ here. I said, well, I'm just starting out. I'm halfway through these lessons. I said, I have never been on the air yet. I said, you're telling me that there's a job available and I might be able to get it? And he goes, it's a possibility.
Wow.
So I ended up hanging up the phone, basically thinking, do I want to go to Butte, Montana? Because he told me, he says, if you want to get a job here, he says, I'll put your name in. But he said, at the same time, you're probably going to have to come out here and get an interview.
Sure.
I said, Butte, Montana from Mendota, Illinois, right? How far is that? About 1,700 miles.
It's right down the street.
Yeah.
Afternoon.
I said, well, how am I going to get to Butte, Montana? I work for the railroad.
There we go.
So I took a 48-hour train trip to Butte, Montana to be interviewed because I had to get an interview to get the job.
Yeah.
So I went to Butte, Montana on a train. The last 500 or 600 miles of it, there were 2 passenger cars on the back of a freight train, and I was the only person on that car. So anyway, I got to Butte, Montana. I interviewed for the job. I said, there's no way I'm going to get hired. I don't know enough about this business at this point. I take the train back to Illinois. I'm sitting there like 3 days, and Chuck Kenworthy calls me up, and he goes, job's yours if you want it. I said, how is that possible? He says, well, here's the deal. He says, you start out at 9 until midnight, you're a DJ. From midnight to 3 o'clock, you're the janitor. I said, well, what happens after 3 o'clock? Now you're the farm director. So I went to Butte, Montana, and I got my first job in radio.
Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss this on the General Store.
Technology has become more complicated and is becoming more cost prohibitive to hire the in-house talent that you need to keep your business secure and running smoothly. The AME Group can help. Outsourcing the management of your business technology gives you access to a broad range of technical expertise for less than hiring directly. AME offers managed IT services including proactive monitoring, preventative maintenance, software management, device management, and 24/7 network support to keep your technology consistent and reliable. The AME Group has been servicing the local area for over 35 years. Give Orion a call at 812-320-0389 for a free on-site assessment for your business today.
Welcome back to WCSM's General Store with our very special guest, Don Fischer. We've been hearing the incredible story about how Don actually got into sports broadcasting. Unbelievable story. If you're just joining, you need to rewind and watch the first segment. So here we are for the second segment. And so, Don, you left Butte, ended back up in Illinois, but ultimately how did you end up at IU? Like, was it another one of those instances where there was a job posting, or how did that happen?
Well, I was working at Terre Haute for 2.5 years, 70 to 72, 3 football seasons, 2 basketball seasons, and the radio station at the end of the 3rd football season said, we're changing our format. We had done all our play-by-play. I was doing 175 games a year in Terre Haute. It was the best time of my life in the sense of just doing play-by-play. But I was doing so much of it that finally the new owner that came into the radio station wanted to change the FM side to a music-intensive format, which is what everybody was doing at that time. So at any rate, I said, well, what happens to me after football's over with? He said, well, you can stay as an announcer, but we're not going to do play-by-play anymore in the AM. And I said, well, that's ridiculous. So I'm not going to do that. So I ended up calling the GM at the radio station I'd worked at in Ottawa, Illinois, where I got my first sportscasting job. And I called him up and I said, Jim, you guys got anything open here for this winter? Because literally it's at the end of football. It's in the end of November, and there are no sportscasting jobs out there. And he said, I can bring you here. We got a high school kid doing our play-by-play. He's not bad. But he said he needs some training and he needs somebody to work with him. And I said, okay. And he said, you can do play-by-play and you can sell. Well, I have never sold in my life either. But it's something else that, you're going to take something on, you do what you got to do.
Right.
And that's what I did. And I wasn't great at it, but at least I sold enough sports ads that it solved the problem for a while for that radio station. At any rate, I got back to Ottawa, Illinois. I was working there, and in the spring, I started looking for jobs. My old boss in Terre Haute calls me up one day, and he says, have you applied for the job at Indiana University? And I said, what are you talking about? He says, well, there's an opening there they're actually hiring a radio station in Indianapolis for a guy to be the exclusive play-by-play voice of Indiana University football and basketball.
Wow.
I said, really? I said, how long did that job been open? He says, probably about a month and a half. I said, well, I got no chance of getting that thing, So he says, I know the general manager there. He says, don't know him well, but he says, I'll call him up and see if they're still taking tapes and resumes. So he called him up. He calls me back. He says, yeah, they're still taking tapes and resumes. That's the good news. I said, so there's bad news and no? He goes, yeah, there's 275 other guys that have applied for the job.
Wow.
He literally told me that. And I said, well, I've got no chance. He says, no. He says he'll take your tape and resume. So I sent a tape and a resume, and literally about a month later, well, not even a month, it was about 2.5, 3 weeks, I get a phone call, and the radio station, the program director, a guy named Bill Robinson, called me up, and he said, we'd like to interview you for the sportscasting position we have here at WIRE and the play-by-play voice of IU. I said, okay. So I went to Indianapolis. I said, I went to the radio station. I interviewed for the job. I went back home, and I thought, there's no chance I'm going to get this gig. I'm the last guy probably that they've interviewed. And lo and behold, 2.5 weeks later, they call me up, and they say, you're the guy we'd like to hire for play-by-play for IU. the good Lord's got a hand on your shoulder when that happens.
You betcha.
At any rate, that's how I got the gig, and now they can't shoehorn my butt out of here.
50 years later. Congratulations, by the way, on that milestone and all of the others. But I want to get back to the fact that you have a twin brother. I mean, it's great that, the Hall of Fames and all that stuff, John, but let's talk more about it. But I did have...
We only focus on the important things.
Right, exactly. So I like talking about family. So you have a twin brother, and... we all guessed his name. I was going to go with Dan. You said Dean.
Dean.
What was your guess?
I didn't have one.
You didn't have. Do you have a?
I did.
And what's your brother's actual name?
Dave.
It's Dave. Now,
Dave.
Is it just the two of you?
Yeah, we are the only true family that my mom and stepfather, or my mom and real dad had.
Okay.
But my stepfather and my mom adopted a boy and a girl.
Oh.
The girl first, and then the boy. And unfortunately, the young lady has passed away, but she passed away a couple of years ago. But the other adopted son is still alive.
Okay.
But anyway, yes. So we've got two. I've got another adopted brother from my dad's.
Oh, okay.
My real father's second marriage.
Okay.
They adopted a kid too. So,
Okay.
So I've got two adopted brothers that are still alive.
Okay.
Very nice.
And so your twin brother Dave, and you said moved in with your grandparents at about the time you were 4, and we stayed till you were about 7.
Right.
Did you do some farm work? Was that part of your
Absolutely.
your room and board?
Well, my dad was a farmer and
Okay.
farmed his whole life on the exact same farm before he passed away at 87.
Oh.
He literally lived on the same place his entire life. And it was a great little farm and loved it there. And we go there every summer and work and bale hay and do the chores and milk cows and, castrate pigs and all kinds of good stuff.
I love that, Don. I mean, I always liked you, but now I really like you. I didn't know you were a farm boy.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we weren't there all the time. I mean,
sure,
we lived in
but
Rochelle, but...
That's your foundation.
Yeah, exactly.
That's wonderful. That's pretty cool. So, so your brother is out west now?
He's in Salt Lake City, Utah. He's a pastor. He's a Lutheran pastor. He literally started. He was in Concordia College in St. Paul, Missouri, for 3 years. Then he went to Seward, Nebraska, for his BA, so to speak, and then he went to seminary for 4 years.
Okay.
And then he had a vicarage year in California. He went to New Jersey, at Bound New Jersey, for a church there for 4 years. He got a call from this church in Salt Lake City. He went there, and that's where he still lives.
So you've been there ever since.
Yep, he's retired, but like I said earlier before we were on air, he's probably preached 20 different sermons at 20 different churches over the last year. I mean, he is in high demand in regard to subbing in for people. He's a great preacher.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to go look him up on the YouTubes. There might be some sermons out there. I love that. What a great story.
Yeah.
So you had a question you wanted to ask.
Yeah, it was more of a mystery I needed you to solve.
Oh, okay.
If you would.
Just call me Sherlock.
Well, you got the hat on for that. So 1987 was a big year.
Yep.
My senior year
in your career. Yes, of course, it's about Mark. But
I knew you were going to.
Yeah, I was. I totally was. So it was a national championship year.
Yep.
And then the 2 national championships prior to that, and we talked a little bit about this in our tribute. That you don't want me to say tribute, but in our show okay. So sorry.
We mentioned him in a previous episode. We mentioned him
a
few times.
Fleeting. Anyway, you had helped produce and narrate albums as a tribute to those years, right?
76 and 81, yes.
And in fact, if I could just...
Oh, no, you don't.
Give me just a second.
Yeah,
here we go. Here we go.
I've got just a couple things that I would really love for you to...
You're going to have him autograph them?
Well, it's what's funny about that. One already has his autograph on it. So I'm going to put this one... I'm going to put this one up in front of the camera. And Mike and Carter, can you guys see that okay? Okay. And then, so that is the 1976. That
was my team. I
album.
love that team.
That's the 1976. And you signed the back of this.
I hope nobody. I hope the camera cannot pan in on that picture.
Look at right here is a young man.
So, and then the 1981 has your picture on the back. This is the front of it here. And then it has your picture on the back. Now, do you still have this sport coat?
Yeah,
I do not. Oh. Trust me, if I did still have it, my wife would have probably hidden it.
Okay. Now, clearly, these were the days before Carter got a hold of your hair. I can see that.
That is true.
Right? Okay, all right. Because you changed some hairstyle. So, but these are the albums, and I can feel myself getting a little nervous. I am the 10-year-old boy who ran a needle through this album. And I don't know if you know this or not, but I was the leading scorer on Red Hill Road in my bedroom for the Nerf League of 1 on none, as I would do everything that I could to emulate what you were saying on the radio. So I guess the mystery comes back and you've probably been asked this several times, why didn't we do one for 87?
Well, in 1976, a company called Fleetwood Records produced that album, the 76. All the material from the 76 season was shipped out to Boston, Massachusetts, to this Fleetwood Records company, and they produced the album based on my tapes that we had made of the broadcasts. What they did at that time is they took those tapes and they ran them through their equipment, and they didn't have the same speed on those. If you ever listen to that album, there are parts of it that make Bob Knight sound like Mickey Mouse almost. It's not it's not quite that bad, but it's not Bob Knight. It doesn't sound like Bob Knight. Yeah. And part of my play-by-play doesn't sound like Don Fischer. It sounds like some it's too fast or too slow, that kind of thing. Okay. So it wasn't perfectly done, and we thought, goodness gracious, we could have done a better job of that if we'd have produced it ourselves. So in 1981, I had an assistant I hired in 1979 named John Minko, and he is just a great guy. He was one of the very first people ever hired at WFAN Radio in New York City, the first all-sports radio station. And he was hired there after he left us in 1986, 86, I think it was 86, to go out there. But John was with me at that time, and we put together the tapes and the play-by-play and all that kind of stuff for that album, but it took us forever, and it took a long time to get it done, and by the time we got it done, it was almost 8 months later after the season had ended, and it wasn't going to sell very well at that point. I mean, a lot of people would buy it, there were a lot of people who did. There were a lot of people who did, but it wasn't a big deal, and it was like probably about a 50-hour deal to put the whole thing together, and it took us a long time to do it. Yeah. And I said, I'm not doing that again. Yeah. And literally that's why we didn't do one in 87. Okay.
So you're saying you're not going to do it?
No.
For 87? Okay.
We're not. There's no hope there.
If somebody's going to do it, it's going to be somebody besides me.
I got you.
Well, it was a pleasure. Like I said, running a needle through those albums. It was lots of memories. I can literally put it on in front of my boys now and tell them what's coming up. And I said, there's going to be some music here. There's going to be a little guitar and everything. So it's a lot of fun. And I'm going to be giving Mike some of that footage, and hopefully he'll be able to put it on the show.
So my question is that album still work?
It does. I put it on there last night. Sure does.
Because if you didn't have one, I can get you another one.
I appreciate that.
There are plenty left.
You got limited supply in there.
Nobody else bought them, so I got them all. No, I don't have that many. But I got a stash.
That's pretty cool though that Don Fischer's on vinyl.
Oh,
I mean that's classic. Yeah. That is good stuff.
And my kids are vinyl crazy, so when they saw those albums,
Well, how much has the technology changed for you from the time? I mean, it's amazing, isn't it?
Thank goodness I don't have to engineer my broadcast anymore, because it's dramatically different. It's nothing like it used to be. We used to order a telephone line, and it had what they called a voice coupler on it, and literally the plungers that go down when you put the phone on the handle of the phone down. You take that off, you dial up the radio station. They say, we got you. You plug in this little thing that sat on the side of the phone, and it's called a voice coupler. And then you'd pull up one of the plungers on the one side that the plunger would come up on, and then you were on the air.
Yeah, through the phone.
Through a piece of, you have to have an amplifier, a piece of equipment there for the microphones and that kind of thing. But literally, it was you could put it on this little table here, all the equipment that you had to have to get on the air. And now, I mean, we still have small amounts of area that you can put equipment on, but the technology that's involved is just ridiculous. I mean, I'm not a guy that I told you already. I wasn't a good student at school. Therefore, I'm not a good student of how to put together this whole thing. And technology is beyond me.
I can attest that you fought it for a while because I was with you a couple of games, and I remember you popped the tape, you popped the cassette in.
Yeah.
So I mean, this was like I think it was 08, and I thought, yep, classic Don right there. So
well, see, I still won't use. I hate headsets. That we're wearing headsets right now.
I don't need. They make your ears.
I want earbuds.
Yeah,
because then my ears just. Right now, you could take a towel and wipe off my ears.
Yeah.
Because I just sweat in these things, and I don't like them.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like earbuds either, but they're better than this.
Yeah.
Somebody get this man some earbuds, please.
Everybody else has headsets with a microphone on it.
Yeah.
I don't do that.
Yeah.
So I've got a stand-up microphone. I got a literally straight stick microphone that I have on a stand, and that's how I do the broadcasting, and I get laughed at every place I go, and I don't care.
And I don't care because I'm Don Fischer. Yeah. Hey, stay close. We're going to take one more quick little break, and we'll be right back to wrap things up on the General Store with our very special guest, Don Fischer.
Isaiah Thomas in backcourt, right side to Risley, into Isaiah, down to the baseline, back out he comes, Isaiah on the dribble and a foul. We're down to 51 seconds to go, and the celebration begins. We're down to 9 seconds to go. Now, Whitman inbound.
All right, welcome back for this special edition of WCSM's General Store with our very special guest, Don Fischer. Just so thankful for you, Don. We all consider you a friend. We've all known you in different aspects. I'm so thankful that we met through Terry Hepner, which is probably one of your favorite coaches that you,
no question,
that you had opportunity to work with, and so it's just great to be able to sit and talk with you. Not so much about IU sports, but it's really been fun to get to know Don Fischer, the man, and thank you for sharing your life and some stories like that with us. And before we wrap up, I do want to give you the opportunity, because I think we all would like to hear your answer. Not necessarily IU, but through your whole career as a broadcaster from Butte, Montana, to current day, what is maybe something that you experienced or learned, or a game or a coach or something that kind of stands out? I know there's a lot of moments, but do you have some favorite memories about all those?
Besides this podcast, Don.
Yeah.
Right, sure, absolutely.
Aside from that.
It goes without saying.
Okay. And besides being in the median when you're in the car with somebody, driving back.
Right.
With my boy here.
Yeah.
Right.
It may be the only time you tried to hit a break.
You were trying to slow down, but he was driving.
It wasn't just one time.
I know.
I'm sorry, Don. My apologies.
We did have a good time.
We did. We had a great time.
We lived.
Well, I did have heart palpitations.
Other than that,
it was good. That's a hard question to answer, because I've had so many great moments through the years with Indiana, both football and basketball, and just in my career. I mean, there's so many people that you meet.
Sure.
There's so many opportunities to be a part of something that maybe a lot of other people aren't a part of. And the greatest thing about my job is that I've been on a college campus for 50 plus years now, because I was in Terre Haute for 2.5 years and did play-by-play at Indiana State. So I've been able to, without going to college, be a part of college athletics for 52.5 years, and it's been the greatest a part of my life. I mean,
Yeah.
Wow.
there are so many things from a career standpoint that stand out to you, but most importantly, your family.
Yeah.
And I raised my 4 boys. My third son, Scott, is going to be the new football coach here at Edgewood.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep, he just got the job here about a week and a half ago.
Congratulations. That's exciting. Now, where's he coming in from?
He's in Indianapolis.
Okay.
He's been a freshman coach for the last couple of years at Franklin Central, but
Fantastic.
he's been a head coach. He's been an assistant coach for the last. It took him 10 years to get through college. The reason was because the old man decided he wasn't going to pay for him anymore after he and his brother came to IU and never saw the classroom that year.
You'll have that.
Oh, you wanted him to go to class.
I thought it was important.
Oh, okay.
At that time,
Right.
I did.
Okay.
But
They eventually did, I'm sure.
Scott is a really good football coach. You're going to like him. He's got a tremendous personality. He's the most social of all my boys. This boy knows how to talk and never stops.
Where'd you get that from?
Yeah,
I have
right.
no idea.
Must be his mother, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But he is really a good football coach, and I can't wait for you guys to meet him and see what he's all about.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And the kids here will love him. They absolutely will.
That is so exciting. I knew they hired a new coach. I didn't know that was your son. That's so cool.
Yep. And the other boys, and my son Chad lives out in Idaho, has 3 kids out there, and a beautiful family, and loves that part of the country, loves that lifestyle. I mean, he lives in a primitive world out there in relation to what you're looking at here in Indiana. It's just different.
And what does he do?
He works for a company that makes, I can't exactly explain it, but it's a company that makes all kinds of different kinds of materials.
Okay.
And he is like a logistics guy for that
okay.
company. So I really don't understand all
You just
that
know he's
stuff.
gainfully employed.
He's gainfully employed. He's got a good job.
He's off of your payroll. That's all that matters.
Exactly.
He lives in a beautiful part of the
Yeah,
country.
He does, and he's doing well. And my son Pat, who's my second son, he lives in Indianapolis. He lives in Greenwood, actually. He works for a roofing company. My third son Matt, likewise, and he's been also a logistics type guy and a director of operations for a company up there. And then, like I said, my youngest son Matt. He's gone through a lot of tough times, and he's handling them really, really well. He's a great dad. All these, I'm just so proud of my boys.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
they're great
so
young
wonderful.
men,
That's
and
the most important thing.
Yeah,
Family.
absolutely.
You're exactly right.
Absolutely.
And I love that you took my question, and that's where you ended it was
Yeah.
with family, because that is what matters.
Right.
So, how many grandkids do you have?
12.
Fantastic.
Yep.
And do you get to see them often?
All of them, with the exception of the 3 out in Idaho. I
Idaho.
don't get to see them near as often as I'd like. And
Sure.
we've got a granddaughter that lives in Germany, so
Oh,
we don't get to see her a lot either. But we try to bring her back every 2 or 3 years, and
Sure.
so that she can see the kids, so the rest of the kids and her cousins and all that kind of thing. So, yep.
Yet, any of them have aspirations of being in radio or broadcasting?
They
or
all been warned about it.
you said, don't do it.
Fair enough.
No, they none of them are in radio, that kind of thing. Like I said, Scott could be in radio. He can talk, and he's really a good teacher and a terrific football coach. I think, like I said, I think you're going to like him. And I
So,
hope
is he
does
coming
well.
into Edgewood as a teacher as well, as an educator?
He will be here as my understanding is he will be a teacher here at Edgewood High School.
Yeah.
He will be in the building, and he's going to hire a coaching staff. He would like a lot of those guys to be in the building too. I know that. I mean, that's one of the things he said. He hopes he can make that happen. And his wife is a school teacher. They both were at Orchard School, the private school up in Indianapolis on the north side. She's been there for 25, 30 years now. Close to 30, and he was there for a short time, but he's been at a lot of different schools as coaches move around. You might
Sure.
know. He's got 3 state championship rings at different schools he's been at.
Awesome.
I'm talking about as an assistant, not as a head coach. But
That's
he
still-
wanted to be a head coach. His last few years, he's been watching his own son play. He's been at Chittard. His son has been at Chittard. He was there for a while. He's also been at Franklin Central as a freshman coach. And his teams have had a lot of success, but more importantly, he wanted to see his son play at Chittard, and they won the state championship 2 of the 3 years he's played.
Amazing.
Nice.
And so, anyway, he's going to DePaul. and
That's amazing.
We're proud of him, too.
Oh, you
So.
bet.
That is so awesome. Well, gosh, Don, thank you so much. It's good to know Don Fischer, the proud father and proud grandfather.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that just makes me love you even more. I'm just so thankful. Thanks, Susie, for letting you come hang out with us knuckleheads. And we just appreciate you so much, not only for what you're known for, but for you're just going to have to take this compliment.
Yeah. Just sit there and take it,
Just
Don.
take it, because we're so thankful for you. You're just such a great human, and we're just really blessed. We were just talking the other day that, who else gets the voice of their school doing both football and basketball? It's not common.
Well, a lot of teams in the Big Ten do have guys that do both, which is surprising because a lot of the time these days they hire a guy for football, they hire a guy for basketball. There are several, and we get together. The broadcast guys that I am a part of, the colleagues, so to speak, in the Big Ten. We have a golf tournament every summer.
Oh, fantastic!
So we're going to get together in May, and this year we're doing it here in Bloomington. So
that's
Very
awesome.
nice.
it's cool.
Well, what I like to say about Don is I think he emulates everything a Hoosier is. Should be.
Absolutely.
He even though he's not a native Hoosier, we're claiming him all the way.
Absolutely.
And if anybody could represent Indiana University, this is the guy we want to do it.
I
Right.
appreciate it. Thank you, Mark.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
God bless you, Don, and thank you. Many, many more years of success and golfing and family events and all the things. We wish you all the best for sure. Tell Susie we said hello.
I appreciate
Please.
it. Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming. We're so thankful for Don Fischer and for him being a guest today. We're thankful for you. Please join us next week. If it's the Lord's will, we'll do it all again on Friday at WCSM's General Store. Thanks for joining us.